Hello and welcome to conditional formatting. But before you proceed with this video, I would like you to pause it, and then I want you to go to your worksheet and duplicate these records until you get, say, to 50 records. So if you wish, you can watch and see how I duplicate mine, and then you play around changing the names as well as the other values such as the salaries and dates of birth. So what I'll basically do is I'll click here, and then I'm going to use my keyboard, press shift and down arrow until I get there, right arrow to go to the right, and then I only need to go until where there is data. I don't have to highlight the columns which are empty up to there, so I only highlight up to here. Then I right click and I say copy, then I go on the first empty row, number 6, right click and paste. So then I repeat the sequence from number 1 to the last record up to here, right click and copy, and then I go to the next blank one and I paste. So every time I'm doubling the number of my records. Right click, copy, and look for my first blank and paste. So now I've got 33. I can simply say here, right click, paste, and let me see how many I have now. 49. So let me just right click and paste, so that I'll probably have more than is necessary. So the idea of multiplying these records is because we want data that can give us proper reports. Data that can give us proper reports. So then what we need to do is to divide this data into sets. So we need a set for each branch. Let's say we are going to use 3 different branches. On our parameters, we have got head office, Rundu, and Ngwerume. So let's leave out Katima Mulilo for now, and let's just work with head office, Rundu, and Ngwerume. So the way that you'll do it is you go to your branch. Like mine is having head office, which I duplicated on all the records. So I'll just check and see what is the total number of my records. My total number of records is 64, because number 1 is having the column headings. So I've got 64 records, and then I need 3 different branches. So approximately each branch I can put 21 people per branch. So I can say from number 2 up to 22 I leave it as head office, and then from 22 say up to 43 or 42, from 23 say up to 46 I make it Rundu, right? Okay, let's see, where is our branch here? Yeah, make it Rundu. So I can copy Rundu down to say 40, anyway up to 40, and then from 40 I select Ngwerume which I then copy to the rest of the items. So there is no formula to say so many people must be in the branch. I just want us to have different branches on our list. Okay, so then you can play around with the job titles. So you know that you probably cannot have too many HR officers per branch, right? So you can just play around with this number of job titles so that it looks more realistic. But the most important column that we want to play with is this one for the monthly salaries, because that is the one that we want to be setting our conditional formats on, right? We want to set our conditional formats there. So I'm just going to randomly change figures. So like this one, I'll change it to 6,000, just jump down 30,000, just at random, 22,000. Okay, this one became 220,000, 4,000, 6,000, 32,000. So we're just trying to make sure that we don't have too many repetitions of the same numbers. Otherwise it won't make much sense on what we are trying to demonstrate. Okay. So you can see that we are still duplicating the names as well on the left hand side, but since it's just an exercise, we won't bother too much about the duplication of the names. Although when we get to the reports, you might get a bit worried why the same person is appearing many times. Just remember, it's because we were too lazy to type in the different names for each record. Okay, so let's now see what we can do on the salaries column using the conditional formatting. So the first thing that we want to do is to highlight the data that we want to format. So we highlight the whole salaries column, just the numbers, not the column heading. And then we go to conditional formatting, which you'll find on the home tab. So conditional formatting, you click on that arrow. So there are different rules. The ones that we're going to be looking at is the top two, highlight, and then top and bottom rules. The highlight cells rule basically looks at items that are greater than a certain number, or less than, or between, or equal to. So if we take the first one that says greater than, so what we are saying is we want to highlight all the salaries that are more than a particular figure. So let's click on greater than, and then we put an amount of 30,000. So in other words, every salary that is greater than 30,000, we want to highlight with this highlight that we'll choose here. So the first one is the light red with a dark red text. So you can already see if there was data that met that condition on the screen. It would appear already, but it looks like our data is a bit below, so we can only see it after we click on OK. So I'm going to click OK, then I'm going to scroll down, so you can see that 32,000 is more than 30, so it is highlighted. So we only have one item that fits that criteria. So you can then put some notes to say everything which is in red is more than 32,000. So you don't have to look at each individual item to know which ones are more than a certain figure. You just look at the color, then you will know this one is more than the particular figure of 30,000. Right, while we are still highlighted, we can go back to conditional format. This time we want to say less than. So we want to see all the people that are earning less than 10,000. So I click the less than, then type in the 10,000 here and click. But this time you do not want to highlight with the same color, because otherwise it will look like the one that is more than 30,000. So let's now put a green fill with a dark red text, with a dark green text, sorry. Right. So you can now see that the ones that are less than 10,000 are now highlighted in green. So the first one that we did, it is still there because it still meets the condition of greater than 30,000. Right, I cleared my selection, so let me reselect. Let me reselect, and then I'll go back to conditional format, and then I'll say I want those with salaries between 20,000 and 30,000, right? Or yeah, maybe let's make it between 15,000 and 30,000. So we go to the highlight cells rule, and then we select the one that says between. So we type in 15,000 and 30,000. So we must give it its own unique highlight. So this time let's put a yellow fill with dark yellow text. So we can see that everything which is between 15,000 and 30 is highlighted with that yellow. So this is a good way of interpreting, or rather helping people to interpret your spreadsheets without having to go with a magnifying glass looking for specific information. So you can just highlight and say, if you see anything in red, these are the clients that are owing too much money. Or you can see, if you see anything in green, these are the accounts which are okay, right? So we are using visual effects just to give us an idea of where the data is sitting depending on the conditions that we have set. Right, so that is only the first rule that we looked at. So let us select again here, highlight, and go back to conditional formatting. So there are quite a lot of them. You can see that you can say I want to see items that are equal to, or I want text that contains, right? Text that contains. So in other words, you can be looking for certain words in your fields. So for example, if you want to check which text is containing the word, say debt or loan or tax, you simply click there. But since we have got numbers here, I can probably just put a number like 8. So you can see that the moment I put the number 8, it highlights cells with 8. If I put 5, it highlights any number which has got a 5 inside it. So in other words, you are searching for particular text within your worksheet. So I'm going to cancel this one. I don't want to implement it. So I go back to conditional format, and let's go to the second one, which says top and bottom rules. So you can take the first one that says top 10 items. So in other words, you say give me the 10 items with the highest salary. Or the next one says top 10%. So regardless of the number, it gives you a percentage to say these items are in the top 10%. Then you have the bottom 10 items. So in other words, count for me the 10 items with the smallest salaries. Then you also have the bottom 10%. Then you've got above average and below average. So let's check and see which people are earning below average. So I select below average, and already it highlights these items that are below average. So you can specify and say, like in our case, let's put a red border. So all the items that are below average will have a red border. And I click, and then I come out of there. So you can see that the more conditions you put, the more confused your worksheet becomes, because it doesn't undo the previous conditions. So if one cell is meeting many conditions, it's going to try and put all those conditions together. So if on one you say make it red, on the next one you say make it green, it will mix the red and the green, and you get probably a purple. Then you say let's put a border around it, you also find it with a border. So the advice that I can give you is, when you're doing conditional formatting, make sure that the conditions you use, they are very clear, they are very concise, very distinct, so that when a person sees the highlight, they know exactly what it means. Because once you mix the colors and the shadings, then nobody is going to know exactly what is the meaning of that particular highlight. So I would like you to play around with conditional formatting on the numbers, on the text, etc., just so that you can see how you can change the highlight depending on certain conditions. So let's meet in the next session, where we are going to be talking about data validation.